Hi, this is a brief introduction to adding a player structure to a Mancala board. And I'm going to start with what you have seen in this. And it's going to start on board CPP. So you've seen most of this. The main change I have here is I now have a print board routine. And this used to be the old int main routine. So that's what I did, was I changed int main to void print board. So I could call this from a new main routine. And also I added better explanations of each of the processes, except for the prototypes here. Then I went ahead and just did the descriptions down at the bottom. That's closer to the code. So again, the only change I really made here was replacing void print board in the place of where int main used to be. Now, the other thing I did was if you notice, I am on the include files. I have no standard library includes. I just have colors.h and a board.h. Colors.h we have gone through once before, and it is just the colors. Anytime I do include, I always do if not def, then give it some arbitrary name, and it really should be all caps, but it's not, and then a pound define colors. Likewise, if you notice on board, in fact, I should probably go ahead. I'm on colors. And just make it consistent. Now let's go to board.h. Board.h then has the standard library includes, and it has access to the one routine that is needed at this time. Eventually this will become a class, and that's why I renamed the whatever you might have called the board program, like lines and dots. I just created it as board.h and board.cpp. Those are related. There is one routine in board that is print board. All the rest cannot be accessed outside of print board because they have no outside access available. So this is then the print board, and then I will go ahead and I also added a main program by itself. I am including players and board. I don't do any colors here, so I don't need to include that. And then int main returns by default returns 0. And then it has no input. And this is just the program that does the main, well, it does the main control of the process. In here, we don't have too much. We first of all ask the user for each of the players' names. And notice then it has what is player, then I is 1 or 2, and then apostrophe S name. And then I go ahead and read in those names and set up the rest of the players. This is called a struct, and I'll just go back through and tell you what a struct is. So I'm going to go to player.h, and again, I don't know why I didn't have this as all uppercase. Then I'm including all the items I need here. And eventually we will need to use vector. This is something we learned in class recently. And some of these we're not using this time, but we will eventually use them. Then this explains what a structure is. A structure is sort of like a class without all the overhead, and all you have in it are well, elements, attributes. And so therefore the first one is just the string, which is the player's name, and then games, wins, losses, ties. Then eventually I'll need to set up players 1 and 2 with the proper Mancala, low pit, and high pit. And just to make sure I have a way of checking those, we're not going to get into that detailed item. If you notice, all of them default to 0 at this time. Getting back to main, then we have asking again, asking the player, and we go ahead and fill up. If you notice, I'm just filling all up with zeros. This has already been done by default. And the other thing I have done here is, if notice, I have 3 structs of player. The reason for that is because throughout the program, I'm going to have player, the first player is 1, the second player is 2, and it's a lot more consistent to just go ahead and leave the first player as totally blank. And there's nothing wrong with that. So then I go through, I fill up the player. Then if you notice, I have here, as long as current player is greater than 0, then it'll go through and it's print the board, and it's now current player dot name, and current player to begin with is 1. Eventually we'll get a little bit fancier with this, but this is just one little increment of the program at a time. Then we see in move, and we're not doing any checks to make sure it is a proper move or anything. And as long as the move is greater than or equal to 0, then we go ahead and make the new move, and then we just toggle back and forth between the 2 players. And again, is when I type -1, the program exits. So to show you how it works, if I do a build, and then run debug, and just arbitrary names, Fred and Wilma, and this is what it looks like, then I can do it, and player 1 is the bottom pits, and player 2 is the top pits. Then I can keep on going. and then until I go ahead and choose to exit. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll talk to you later.